Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open our exciting conversation for today. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dance Teachers Hosted Conversation with Regional Dance America. My name is Rianne Rodriguez, and I'm the editorial director here at Dance Teacher slash Dance Teacher Plus. Our conversation today will be recorded and we'll be putting it up on our YouTube channel, so you can come back and watch this on demand at any time. There will also be an opportunity for you to ask questions live in the last 10 to 15 minutes of this conversation. It's my honor to introduce Regional Dance America, a 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization. RDA provides performance and educational opportunities for pre-professional dancers and audiences throughout all American communities, rural and urban, small town and suburb. Through regional festivals, in-studio adjudication, master classes, non-competitive and high-caliber performances, networking opportunities, and virtual workshops, RDA provides quality education and support to member companies throughout the entire year, along with scholarship opportunities for thousands of dancers annually. In today's discussion, we'll be talking with some esteemed guests from RDA about what it takes to become an RDA company member, whether you're part of a dance company, ensemble, group, troupe, or guild, and the immense benefits that come with forming a nonprofit for your performing group. Joining us today are Erica Davis, CEO of RDA, who's also an advisory board member of our sister publication, Point Magazine, Nancy Tolbert Yilmaz, owner of Tolbert Yilmaz School of Dance in RDA's Southeast region, Joy Caponi, director of Philadelphia Dance Theater in the Northeast region and the first vice president of RDA National, Mary Leger, director emerita of Raleigh Dance Theater, RDA National president and RDA National Choreography Recognition awardee, Tanya Gunton, assistant director for Ballet America in RDA's Pacific region, and Kylie Mortonberry of Van Meter School of Dance, who is also the president of RDA Southeast, as well as the second vice president and social media manager at RDA National. Nancy, Joy, Mary, Tanya, and Kylie all serve on regional boards of RDA as well. Welcome, ladies. We're so thrilled to have you all with us today. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's kick things off immediately. Let's start by talking about why you might establish a nonprofit and the benefits that come with it. How does a nonprofit performing company tie into your dance school? Nancy, I'd love for you to start.
Okay, I'll be glad to take that. Thank you, Rianne. Well, how does it tie in with our dance school? Let me give you a small little synopsis of the past 45 years with our dance school. We opened the school in 1979, and then in 1985, the dance company, Roswell Dance Theater, was founded. After 10 years with the dance company, we had the desire to become a member of Regional Dance America. One of the first requirements was that we be a nonprofit. That is when we started checking into how that would work. And we applied for the nonprofit, and then we went for our adjudication with Regional Dance America. It was a game changer. We had to be very, very organized in what we were doing, especially in the accounting department, to make sure the funds were going in the right direction. I think that what we did initially was just in order to become a nonprofit to reach one particular goal. But as the dance company became more complex and larger, we knew that we had to do things in a different way. And so that is one reason I can say, ticket sales alone were no longer going to be able to fund the dreams and the aspirations that we had for our company. We needed to go outside of just the ticket sales for the performances to go for corporate sponsorship or our patrons to for the money. And you're not going to be able to grow unless you make the leap into a nonprofit, as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I think Joy, you had something to add to that for Philadelphia Dance Theater. Can you talk a little bit about that as well with us, please?
Sure. Philadelphia Dance Theater is in its 25th year, and about 7 or 8 years in, our accountant and we got strategic planning advice. So we had already had the nonprofit established. Thought that for us, it would make the most sense to sort of table our for-profit school and make the entire organization nonprofit, which that was a tremendous benefit for us because we were already giving tuition assistance. We were already doing so many outreach programs that advice came to us so that we could seek more support for those programs. And that has benefited us tremendously. And as Nancy, I mean, I 100% agree with her. In order to get the kind of support from your community and funding that you want, sponsorship, and also just interest. People love an organization that is doing good in the community and really helping the community culturally and to thrive. People are invested in young people and young people's dreams. They want to support it, and they feel good about coming, not just coming to a show to see, their child, their grandchild, their friend, their neighbor, but coming to something that is enriching their community and supporting a nonprofit at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it just made sense to we still own the for-profit, the entity, but we don't use it anymore, and we operate entirely as a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think you also you'd mentioned earlier that you do things like curtain speech and highlight aspects of your programming.
So, yeah, I would say you have to constantly educate and re-educate. You're constantly like getting in front of the curtain every single performance and saying we're a nonprofit. If you like what you see, please, visit us here at the QR code, or we put envelopes in our programs. We have to educate our parents in the school because people, even our students and parents, need to be educated that we're a nonprofit and we're doing all of these wonderful programs that their children can be a part of. But that is just, it's sort of a basic marketing principle. You have to constantly be saying, this is who we are, these are our values, this is what we're striving for. One thing we have in our registration is when a new student registers, there's a little box that says, do you know PDT is a nonprofit? Would you like to become a member? So right, that very first initial interaction is happening out of the get-go, but we are constantly re-educating and talking about that.
Right. I think it's so important to keep that conversation top of mind consistently. I'm curious to know, how hard is it to become a nonprofit entity? What is the process involved? Maybe Mary, you can share that, some information with us on that.
Sure, happy to do that. The paperwork itself is not difficult. You want to generate a mission statement and bylaws for leading the nonprofit organization. A nonprofit is led by a board of directors who are people committed to the mission. And as a side note, I would strongly recommend that though you are very familiar with the parents of the students in your school, you might be tempted to consider asking them to be board members, but I strongly encourage you not to. The chance for too many conflicts of interest and challenging situations could arise. So the goal would be to create a board of community members with skills, knowledge, qualities that bring support to your new organization. That's a key factor. The knowledge you gain from them can also bleed over into your school. For example, if you have a board member who is experienced in marketing, perhaps they'll create a plan for your company, but that also could create some new ideas for your school for potentially bolstering your enrollment.
Mhm. Joy, would you like to talk about how you reach out to people and resources that you might have to assist with the process as well?
Well, you could just, if you know attorneys, accountants, anybody who can give you legal advice. I try to always have professionals on our board. So we have somebody who's in marketing, somebody who's an attorney, somebody who's an accountant. And it takes time to get, it's not like immediately that happened. It takes time to develop that interest. We always, again, in the curtain speeches and annual appeal letter, we ask people if they'd like to get involved, please reach out. Um, and just establishing your mission is very, very helpful because that helps you sort of target the people that are going to really support you and help you.
I like that you keep the resources sort of open with a mix of resources and people that come with different knowledge and expertise. I think that's really key. So the nonprofit can be a big part of what you do or a small part of what you do. I think it's the choice that you make. Mary, can you tell us a little bit more about how that kind of plays out for you?
Sure. One wonderful aspect of creating a nonprofit is that you can create more performance opportunities for your students. And in the situation that I was in, our school put on one production at the end of the year for the school students. We realized having the opportunity for more performances was very interesting to a lot of the students. So that the performance entity was able to create that. We were able to put on two full productions a year, plus more outreach performances at little or no cost to the dancers because we were able to generate funding for it through grants, individual and corporate support. Also, in our case, through the nonprofit, we added an outreach program that included us creating a digital resource guide, providing an in-school assembly, and a field trip to see one of our performances. So that added all those things to our calendar. All this funded through individual and corporate support. And again, because we were able to provide this to the underserved students, children in our community, that was just a good thing. And also, it also gave our dancers another performance opportunity. So there were more than one way that it was a good thing. And then the other thing that was, again, a great thing, I think, for our community and that people want to support it is these students that we expose dance to through our going to the school for the assembly and then them also coming to see the performance. These are children that typically don't have access to dance. Often these children have black and brown skin, and for them to be able to see the dancers that look like them and realize that this is something that they could do too, added an important connection to those children and generally in our community in general. It made it feel more welcoming and accessible. And then the other thing, the two organizations, so the big part and small part also, they can support each other. It doesn't, though you're trying to keep them separately
Right.
through financially, you can, loan each other or, donate certain things to your co-organization or your affiliated organization. So perhaps, your for-profit school donates the space that the company works in and you get to use their new sound system they may purchase. But perhaps the company, the nonprofit part, is able to write a grant to purchase new flooring for a stage. And then, sure, you can offer that to the school. So there's ways you can work together while still keeping your organizations officially separate.
Right. That's really interesting. The dynamic between all of those variables, I think, is very interesting. Tanya, would you like to tell us as well from your role and your experience, as Mary just shared, from your role and your experience, what that entails for you as well?
Yes, sure. Uh, one thing I want to kind of piggyback on what Mary was saying, just being able to give back to the community. So for our company, we're very passionate about giving back to the community, and we enjoy the opportunity to share dance with those that don't easily have access to it. And so as a nonprofit organization, we have been fortunate then to be able to receive donations from families or matching fund programs through, their work, um, grants from our city council. We have had charitable trusts that have offered us greater reach. And so some of the things that more kind of personal experiences that I think can speak to all of our hearts as artists is, for example, this year in 2024, the end of last year, we were given an anonymous donation to bring dance to a community that otherwise wouldn't have access to it. And for us, this meant renting a tour bus and taking our dancers over 160 miles away to a very small rural community. And yeah, it was awesome for them. They really enjoyed it. But so we got to bring dance to a community that for a veterans event. So we were honoring some military veterans as well as the children in the area. And it was honestly just the most beautiful collaboration of dance, community, elderly, young. It honestly, it really did. It was amazing. And then just to share a personal thing, because it was so special, there was a woman there at this event that, and she had been a professional dancer, and when she moved to the area, and again, it's a very rural area, she came in a like fur coat and all dressed fancy for the ballet performance. And she brought this gorgeous black and white photo of her when she had been dancing. And this had been the first time since in the last 30 years that she's been there that a ballet company had toured her area. Wow. And that was all due to this, lovely anonymous donation. And so, these are just really special things. And our dancers enjoyed it. We had veterans with tears in their eyes and everything. And then in addition, I wanted to share that we had we earned a generous grant from CCI Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Mm-hmm. So we took the time to write that grant, and that did allow us to have additional school shows. So similar to Mary, we do provide school shows for our Nutcracker. We provide an opportunity for elementary schools that otherwise might not have a chance to come. And they only have to pay for the buses. The schools are, the shows are on us. And we were provided this year with that grant, we were able to offer an additional 2. So I gave our dancers an opportunity to have multiple days of shows. So that was lovely for them. They really enjoyed it. And we had dancers in that community that were invited to come and participate in our growing Christmas tree scene. And then they went back out into the audience as well. So that was, special in that way. And a final little nugget is we had another generous donation that allowed us to have brand new costumes for our snow scene and just bring glitter and sparkle to our dancers. And they just felt very honored. And the costumes were made by an alumni parent, but the donation came from another source. So those are all just some really day-to-day ways that you could be impacting your community.
Yeah, it sounds so wonderful. I mean, so heartwarming as well, to be able to do all of this. I think it's wonderful. And also in such a small community, I think the impact that you make is really huge. I think, Joy, you had shared earlier about the boys' tuition-free program and sensory friendly programming and the New Works Fund. I'm so interested and excited for you to chat about that a little bit more.
Sure. So we want, we want a diverse and vibrant community for the dancers to be in, and we still unfortunately have to offer free tuition for boys to get them in the door. But it's a wonderful program. It brings in families or a lot of big brothers or younger brothers who are sitting in the lobby, and they'll jump in and take class. But that's an excellent way to be able to raise money for those classes, because they take mixed classes, but they also take classes with just a male instructor. focusing on male technique. Then we do a sensory friendly performance for Nutcracker in our spring production. And so that is like a shortened version of our Nutcracker, 45 minutes. We take out loud noises. We keep the lights on in the theater. We sell gluten-free and allergy-friendly snacks, and then we do a class on stage at the end. And that really brings in the community, but we also do some things in the school. So we do bedtime with ballet that our students can sort of take a Zoom class with these kids from the community and get involved in that. Just like a practical application is if you're renting a theater, then your company and your school can split that. So like our end of season production for our annual recital is the June showcase. And so in that same weekend, our company presents Breaking Ground, which is just our more dedicated older dancers. It's the company pieces that we actually present for Regional Dance America's adjudication. So we perform all of those on a separate billing, and that performance will be Saturday night, and the June showcase is early in the morning. But then so we're all one entity, it would be one thing. But if you were two separate entities, the school could be paying for half of it, and the company could be contributing, or the school could be, loaning that. You could work out, as Mary was saying, there's lots of ways for one organization to support the other organization. And it becomes like this really beautiful, harmonious support system to help each organization grow.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. Great point to add to that. As we established already in my introduction as well of RDA, being an RDA member gives you an access to like this nationwide network of, everything from teaching artists, choreographers, dancers, directors, and that together provides endless opportunities for growth. Erica, can you tell us more about the benefits your current members are enjoying? I'm sure so many people on this call would love to hear that.
Sure, sure. Regional Dance America, you can think of as an umbrella of nonprofit organizations that are in this pre-professional dance world. We have a national organization. We have 5 member regions that are all 501c3s. We ourselves are in 501c3 as RDA National. And all of the member companies that are a part of each of our regions. So these might be pre-professional performing groups, troupes, guilds, ensembles, companies, etc. They're all nonprofits as well. So we're like one big giant umbrella. And being a part of RDA, it offers mission alignment. These are leaders and performing groups that all share a common interest of creating opportunities for their dancers, connecting with the greater dance community outside of their own local community, learning from others and sharing resources, offering support to fellow directors and companies throughout the country. What we do, what RDA does, is we bring together our member companies that are in all of these diverse geographic regions for on-site and virtual events, master classes, workshops, high caliber performances, and we provide access to a lot of different types of dance forms and performances and scholarship opportunities for thousands of dancers annually. Some of the highlights that we have for our member companies in a given season, they include our annual festivals. So our festivals happen in all different regions of the country, and periodically we also gather together for a really big national festival event as well. We have a scholarship and recruitment program where RDA connects dancers with over $10 million worth of scholarship, admission, and encouragement opportunities every year. And RDA also offers 2 summer intensives, and those summer intensives are open to everyone. You don't have to be affiliated with RDA to learn a bit about what we do and everything. Our 2 summer programs are the National Choreography Intensive, which is in its 64th year this summer, as well as our National Training Program, which is our newest addition to our summer offerings, and we're in our 3rd year of that program.
Wow.
I think Kylie too, you can talk, I'm sure, a lot about your engagements with RDA and just what the whole network of RDA has brought you for sure.
Yeah, so I have had a pretty unique experience with Regional Dance America that I have been a part of it in essentially every way you can be a part of it. So I grew up as a dancer. Our company actually joined the organization the year I was born. So I'm a lifer with RDA. But yeah, so I was a dancer in the organization, and then I started choreographing on our company. So then that was showcased at the festivals. Now I'm the associate director of our nonprofit Appalachian Ballet Company. And of course, I'm on both the regional and the national board. So I kind of have this unique perspective on RDA because I've just seen it in so many ways. So just some, networking examples, which is one thing that I really enjoy. We are in a small town in East Tennessee. So, we try to bring this to our dancers in so many ways, to bring the arts and the dance culture to them. So as a dancer, I mean, it's literally how I got my job. As a professional dancer, I received a scholarship and went to the summer program and then was hired from there. And when I moved back home, my mom is actually the artistic director of our company. So the two of us work together. And, I would go to festivals as a guest artist with her. And so then other companies ended up hiring me to be a guest artist for them. Like, I need a Caraboss for Sleeping Beauty. Are you free in May? I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. And then some choreography opportunities too. Once I started choreographing, other directors would call me and say, hey, we're looking for something new for our company. Would you mind to come this summer, teach for us a little bit, and then maybe set a piece that we can use for our season? And I know this happens for a lot of dancers, that we, bring in a guest artist to come to festival, and then somebody else says, "Ooh, I really need a Prince for Nutcracker. Could you come do this for me?" So that's a really nice thing, being able to dance at the festival, not just as a student, but then as a freelance dancer, I was able to really have a lot of opportunities. And then as a director, this one I think is really important, especially as I'm kind of getting started and learning more about being a director, is having these people that have done it longer than I have, that can give me advice, and that can give us examples of things that we can utilize even in our school, even in our for-profit school, as simple as like a registration system. Actually, I think Nancy was the one who told us about the registration system that our school uses now. So we all give each other advice and share these examples. But one of them I think is so great. Our company received a really generous grant from the state of Tennessee following the pandemic, and we needed new sets and scenery for our Nutcracker desperately. Our company is 52 years old, and I think one of these backdrops was 52 years old, and it was like dry rotting. So we had the funds from this beautiful grant to be able to afford it. And we wanted, hand painted custom stuff to match all of our costumes, because we have all these things built. And we said, who does that? Who can we find to do that? And we asked the lighting designers that were helping with our festival. We asked them if they knew anybody, and one of them said, "Oh, I know these people in Winston-Salem. They're fantastic." And we got in touch with them and used him as a connection, and they are beautiful. And we got to use them this year. So, something just kind of, it not necessarily totally dance related, but in the dance world, that allowed us to have that, that great backdrops be built for us. And then just locally, we do a lot of community outreach stuff too, which helps our community have experiences. Our studio is on Broadway. It's our main street downtown, and they shut it down for events. And so we open our doors and people can come in and see our studio. Our kids go out and dance in the street at Halloween and pass out candy, and then we hand out flyers for the Nutcracker. And then in turn, we give our kids community service hours because it's through Parks and Rec. So our kids also are receiving, some community service time, for their time that they give when being a part of Appalachian Ballet Company. So those are just some of my examples. I'm sure there are more, but
I love that you've enjoyed such a storied career like at RDA, and also the collaboration that you've experienced. I think it's wonderful, like the overlap there. So we are coming sort of at our half an hour mark. We still have another little bit to go. I do have some follow-up questions for you all now that you've all had a little bit of time to speak. And then maybe about 15 minutes from now, we will take questions from our chat room. I do see some questions coming in already. So if you do have those questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat. I want to go back and maybe talk a little bit more on the specifics, and please feel free to jump in here if you have a response that you'd like to provide. Is there a checklist of what to do when you start a nonprofit? Maybe Erica, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, generally, which I know we'll say towards the end, but please contact us for just connections that we can help you make, in this nonprofit world. I would certainly say that I really should say this first, every state has different requirements, right? So by all means, we do not want to provide advice here legally. We really want to encourage you to reach out to a member of your local legal community and really get their advice and expertise here. But you might want to start by just asking yourself some questions, like start really simple for yourself. So why are you doing this? What's your mission going to be? Right. And really making sure that you know exactly why, your endeavor is going to be creating this nonprofit organization. What are you going to do with this nonprofit? What's that impact going to look like? Who are you serving? Right. Like answer these questions for yourself as you develop, your plan for creating your nonprofit. Who's going to help you, who might be some board members that you might reach out to, for example, or others, like Joy was mentioning earlier, with different backgrounds and different expertise to be able to help you and assist you in this endeavor. You can ask yourself certainly the question, I know it's a popular one, how are you going to raise money for this endeavor? Again, are there perhaps local funding sources you might be able to approach for assistance? Who might offer support for you and for this endeavor?
Right.
And then I'd also just always ask too, in creating a nonprofit, it may or may not be that you're talking about a studio, for example, converting to a nonprofit, but you also might be asking again, how does this fit into the bigger picture of, for example, if your studio is an LLC, right? How does the nonprofit fit in? Again, I might just start by asking yourself some of those questions, and then by all means, certainly contacting a member of the legal community in your area for sure for the guidance on setting up the business.
Right. Good point. I know this is maybe me preempting a little bit about what people on this call might be thinking, and we do have some questions coming in the chat, which I will ask in a few minutes. But for those that think I don't want to lose money for my school, will the nonprofit make me lose money? What would you say to that? I saw Mary's hand. Sorry, yes, Mary, we'll go with you
Yeah.
first and then.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that. And that's a really good question, because if you've established a school and an organization that's doing well and is successful and everything's, financially settled, and I can see that being a concern. But if you think of it again, that when you establish the nonprofit, then your finances, you should have separate bank accounts, separate books. You're going to keep it all if you keep it separate, then that can't really happen. That if the nonprofit doesn't work, it will not affect your school, because your school has all different set of finances and books and money coming in. So it's a great question, but if you set everything up in the correct way, then that shouldn't be able to happen.
Yeah. Nancy, you can add to that as well, please.
Yeah, as Joy was saying before, I believe the community will see that you are giving back by being a nonprofit. The funds will come in. And I can tell you one example. When we have our auditions for Nutcracker for the open school roles, the children's roles, we only allow the students from our school. We do not allow students from outside of the school to audition. And at first, when we made this rule, I was a little concerned because there were a lot of kids coming in from outside of the school. And I thought, well, those might be potential students.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they actually turned out to be potential students. They turned out to be potential students because they found out they could only audition if they were enrolled in our school. So our enrollment for the open school went up because of the nonprofit with Roswell Dance Theater. So, that's something, it's a win-win. But as Mary said, you have to keep the records separately. You cannot let your school suffer because the dance company is getting the funding coming in. Your dance school is your bread and butter. Your open school, those are the ones that are paying the bills.
Right, right. And also in terms of time, if there's a question about like, how much extra time am I going to spend on this? Can you maybe provide some insights on that?
I think it could be a little overwhelming to hear all these people with all this experience and they're doing all these like really amazing things. And it's probably going to start slow. Like it started very slow for me. I couldn't really afford to hire somebody. I was doing a lot of the work and I was taking, community sort of opportunities to perform when I could that weren't costing any money. So, somebody might ask, can you perform at, a retirement home? Can you perform at this festival? And we just did as much as we could. And then, so it's sort of like, I think it's really important you set very clear goals, how much time you want to spend on the nonprofit and your reason why, and really, again, stick to that mission. And then it will gain its own momentum, and in a little bit, people will start to believe in it. Your kids will your dancers will become really excited about just being able to perform more. It's why they take class. So the more opportunities you're giving them to really share their love of dance and sort of express themselves and it's also those performing opportunities, they build your enrollment because people see your dancers out in public, they see them performing and they're getting these opportunities. They want to be a part of it. So I think, it is going to take a little bit of time. I think maybe not till like my second or third year in, did we like hire a ballet mistress and somebody to help with rehearsals. And so those things, it just takes time, a little bit of time. And so I wouldn't get overwhelmed in the beginning. I would think that like you sort of make the boundaries for what you want to do. And as it gains momentum and you can afford to do more, then you do more.
Awesome. Yes. I am seeing in the chat as well some questions sort of related to this one, but I'm curious about, why go this route versus being an all for profit. I think there's been some questions in the chat as well about this. So if any of you could provide some insight into that.
I think the biggest thing is that I tend to hear from member companies of RDA is when they're making this decision, do I form a nonprofit or perhaps do I go fully nonprofit? But again, every situation is completely different there. What more, what opportunities can I bring to these dancers? Like it's really always looking towards this mission of growth in opportunities that can be brought towards the dancers. And with a nonprofit, it's the connection to that community. So I feel like if that is something that resonates with you, this is probably an opportunity or an option that you might want to look into because the community support that comes from having a nonprofit that is driven by a mission where income and expenses for that organization are fulfilling this mission that's really quite beautiful, in the grand scheme of everything that either, for example, an individual could support, or maybe a business could support, or maybe a foundation could support. Having that mission and community-driven cause, I think, is something that really resonates with a lot of individuals and a lot of businesses, a lot of foundations. So very generally speaking, if that is something that seems to resonate with you, this might be an opportunity to look into.
Okay. And Erica, since I already have you on the spotlight, a question here for you that's come directly from our chat room is, as a dance services nonprofit organization, how is RDA resourcing your support programs beyond membership dues or fees? what's working when it comes to making the case for funders to support RDA as an intermediary or umbrella organization?
It's a really great question. I think it's again, it's based on where I'd actually think that this is a really good one for me to follow up with after, because I could go on for an hour about just this question alone. I think just some very simple points to say for the point of our webinar today. Um, RDA is able to, with our reach, we're able to reach portions of the country that might not have the opportunities that RDA can provide because of how large our organization is, right? And so I think that when it comes to, sourcing support and what we're looking for, support for with this organization, it's, of course, like the simple questions of how many dancers are impacted by this? What can as say a funder, for example, what can my reach be? Which organizations or which communities, are you serving? What opportunities for, additional individuals to come into the RDA fold might I be creating by supporting this organization? So I'd say support, I mean, certainly foundation support, a lot of individual support, because attending RDA events and getting involved with this organization tends to lead to a lot of really goodwill, which is a beautiful thing for us. And again, it's just the ability for us to continue to bring all of these opportunities to the dancers, certainly our member companies, and also the locations where we bring all of our events. I am happy to follow up more specifically, though, via email for this particular question, or even by phone call, because this is a really good one that I can speak for an hour on.
Yeah, and I want to add, and I will say this again towards the end of the conversation, if you have a question here, I mean, we have a limited time, so if your question doesn't get answered here, please email info@regionaldanceamerica.org. Okay, I'm going to take some more questions. Another great one that's come through. How does this model, which is nonprofit, especially as it involves disappearing deduction incentive for most taxpayers, work in your communities? What do you think of the option of fiscal sponsorship?
I think the silence from us is coming from there are a lot of different business models that can be chosen, and without context of what this particular like all of the different um, I don't know, local community might look like for this company or this individual or this whomever, is asking this question, without us knowing those tidbits of information, I'm not sure if we want to provide advice or guidance in that way. However, I would say from the nonprofit side, one thing that at one point was just, said to me that I hadn't even thought of, honestly, but it is so true, is like a nonprofit really exists, beyond a single individual. Right. So for example, if there's a studio that it is a nonprofit, like that entity is going to exist, beyond, for example, the original founding director, or, the maybe original advisory board or board, for this particular organization. And the roots that it can dig in its community, right, really grow stronger and stronger throughout the years. I'd say, again, might be a really great question to follow up with via email. I always would encourage, though, and I think any of us would encourage, if possible, have a conversation with a member of your local legal community and ask those questions and really get some good advice based on your particular situation and all of the factors that go into what your situation is, more so than us, giving an opinion, I guess, on this particular topic. I would encourage that, but certainly send us an email. We'd be happy to just, share some resources or connections that may be helpful for sure.
Yeah. So I am sort of consolidating some of these questions as well. Thank you so much for answering that, Erica. The next question we have is about costume and backdrop rentals within the regions. Is there a system in place for companies to rent from one another? When I danced with Atlanta Ballet, they would often rent costumes and sets from other organizations and vice versa. I see this as a potential opportunity for nonprofits to generate revenue from assets that aren't in use.
Oh,
Joy, let's go with you first, and then Mary, and then Nancy.
So this happens all the time in RDA. It's like pretty frequent that we share each other's resources. So Mary Legier has Fancy Nancy Ballets, and I had her come last year and set that ballet on our dancers, and then I rented her former company, Raleigh Dance Theater's costumes for that ballet. So that saved us so much time and so much money. And also, I'm not storing a whole other ballet of costumes. But this happens quite frequently. Or I could go to a festival, like sometimes we attend other festivals, and I could see another choreographer's work in a different area and then decide I want to use that ballet for next season or 2 seasons later, and contact that choreographer. And then the choreographer might put me in touch with the company director to rent the costumes if they have the costumes, especially if they were something that's handmade. But this is something that happens all the time in RDA, and it's one of the best networking. It saves a lot of money, it saves a lot of time, it introduces your dancers to different choreographers, different costumers, all kinds of wonderful perks come out of that.
Mary, you need to add? Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Joy. And her company is lovely, and it was wonderful to work with her company setting that ballet. But just to kind of just follow up, it is like the question also said, is it a potential for a little bit of revenue? And yes, it is. Like she said, Joyce said that there was the rental fee of the costumes, which added a little bit of revenue to Raleigh Dance Theater's budget. And sometimes there's just maybe two companies work together, and I believe Nancy may speak to that. Well, they'll literally share the ballet and the costumes of an Alice in Wonderland or whatever. So there's so many ways you can collaborate in that way that are beneficial to both organizations.
Yes. Nancy, would you like to add?
Actually, twofold. When we're at festival for the Southeast, we all discussed what spring ballet we just did and what we were thinking about doing for the future. This year, for example, with our company, every costume came from Southeast Alabama Dance Theater. Lighting equipment came from another Southeast company. I mean, it's like the networking extravaganza for the Southeast. We circle the shows and we look to see who has done what and who's doing in the future. The other thing that is great is for dancers as well as faculty members. If you have a dancer who is moving to New Hampshire, I know who to call. I know who to pick up the phone and call. I can call Joy. I can call Kylie and say, I have a dancer who's moving to Knoxville. The same with faculty members. And even from outside of RDA, I had a phone call from a dear friend at Atlanta Ballet. It had a teacher same thing. It's the greatest networking organization that you could ever become a member of. So, yeah, that answers that.
Fantastic. There's so many great questions here. But the next one actually I wanted to ask is, what are some of the alums of RDA doing now? Do you see some of the alums giving back to RDA in some way? I think that's such a great question.
It might be interesting for those of us who are RDA alum to raise our hand. So not all of our member companies, certainly, directors, for example, grew up in RDA, but I will say that the connections that this organization generates just create such beautiful, beautiful goodwill within this dance world. I personally was on a trajectory in corporate America that was really fabulous, and I loved what I was doing. And then RDA called. And it was, a complete change of what I had expected, for my career, because the organization had provided me so many opportunities as a young dancer that I really jumped on the opportunity to give back and to create more opportunities for future dancers, within this organization. Certainly, I'm going to say, Kylie, want to speak more to this. Generally, though, right now, our alumni are all over in really every field possible, honestly. Certainly RDA alum go on to professional careers in dance. They go on to become artistic directors, executive directors, choreographers, etc. We have a lot of individuals who grow through our National Choreography Intensive to receive maybe their first commission with a company and to choreograph, for example, and then go on to just wonderful careers in choreography and again, artistic expression in other ways in that way, shape, and form. We have alum who come to our festivals, for example, to offer their expertise in the fields of like physical therapy or kinesiology or other types of, dance-related fields. We certainly have individuals who share expertise, with the organization or they want to give back in a certain way. I'll pause there. Please, someone else take this because there's a lot of answers we can give.
You kind of said what I was going to say is that, like for the Southeast Festival this year, one of the goals that I had in reaching out to who we were going to bring to the festival was that they did have some sort of previous affiliation with the organization. So almost all of our faculty members who have gone off to have wonderful professional careers, and they're not all even dance related. We have some mental wellness people coming in, some cross training people coming in. So almost every single one of them have been affiliated with an RDA company as a dancer in some shape or form, and not just the Southeast region. There's a handful that are going to be new to the organization because, of course, we want to keep welcoming new people into the experience. But that was, we're almost to our 70th year as the Southeast region, and so really trying to celebrate what our dancers have gone off and done in their professional careers. It's exciting.
Yes, Nancy.
I have an interesting tidbit of a former Sugar Plum Fairy that was an RDA member alumni. She has just stepped down as the editor of Cosmo magazine.
Oh,
There
wow.
are
It's incredible.
not in the dance field, but a little interesting tidbit right there. And she still keeps in touch and still asks about festival and adjudication. We had our adjudication day before yesterday, and she sent a text. How did it go, Miss Nancy? So yeah, interesting. Not a dancer any longer.
Yeah, but it's great to see sort of where, non-dance and dance as well, the impact that the alum and the organization has made. Okay, I know I'm pivoting to different topics. I'm trying to sort of cover all the bases and all the questions that we've been asked. I want to go and ask a question from a small dance company that includes an uncommon dance style, does not have a school associated with it. Is there a model that's possible to work with? What other styles or business models does RDA work with?
Let's see here. Specifically, so it's a good question. Just really generally within RDA, so our member organizations, right? Our member companies is what we refer to them as. They are all 501c3 nonprofits. Each organization, again, it operates slightly differently. It meets the needs of its community slightly differently than the next would, but the involvement of what we call our member companies, who are members of an RDA regions member of RDA National, all of those entities are 501c3 nonprofits. So specifically for our organization, we do serve that 501c3 community, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, for example, a member company of ours might also be affiliated somehow with a school that is a different, entity versus the nonprofit performing group. So specifically, we work with the nonprofit performing groups, and that is the basis of what our membership is. But affiliations beyond there really quite closely are plenty of different types of business models.
Okay. Question for you also, Erica. Does RDA work with any Indian folk dance or Bollywood styles as well?
Oh, that would be so lovely. We have had at our festivals, we try to, I should elaborate, our festivals happen in the springtime. They tend to be 3 days long. They are really a celebration of dance. They're non-competitive. And what we do at those festivals is we offer world-class instruction for these dancers in many different genres. I think that one of the festivals that I'm really specifically thinking about, the Bollywood classes that were offered were the highlight of that festival. The dancers loved the ability to learn and grow in a different form of dance than they might receive at home. Or maybe they do receive that training at home, but it was a different instructor, right, who was able to share that expertise in that particular field. So we try to work with many different educators in different genres of dance. Specifically for RDA membership, we do look for a nonprofit performing group, troupe, guild, etc., to be training in many different styles of dance, but they might present choreography in jazz. They may present choreography in a Bollywood style. They might present choreography in a modern style, ballet, contemporary, right? So a lot of different genres of dance are seen within the organization.
Wonderful. Wow, I mean, I've learned so much from you all. This has been so incredible, and like the questions still keep coming in, so I'm sure you'll get a lot of follow-up emails. I wish we could talk more, but we are almost at time. So I will provide the email address. So if any of you have further questions that you'd like to ask, get answered, please email them to info@regionaldanceamerica.org. Before I end, is there anything you all want to add or share before I close the conversation? If not, you can just jump in if you need to say any last minute things. But if not, Erica, did you want to say anything, or shall I?
Sure. I think that with this webinar, we were just so excited to be able to talk with the dance community about a topic that tends to be really overwhelming, right? And by all means, we're not looking to offer advice legally or anything like that. But what we're looking to do is just share information and perhaps inspire some of the individuals who might be watching this webinar to just look into what this opportunity for a potential business style might be for their organization, or perhaps for a new organization to be formed. One of the things within RDA that I really appreciate is whenever questions come in, whether they're from an affiliated organization or whether they're just from someone looking for advice, we have directors in this organization who are just really, really looking to share best practices and share just pieces of information that may be helpful. So by all means, please do reach out. I know we've been watching that chat and watching the Q&A, and there are a lot of questions in there. So we're happy to follow up for sure. I'd always recommend that if you're looking to go a nonprofit route, that you ask someone in your legal community in your area for real, true guidance based on your own situation. But any information or any connections that we might be able to form here from this conversation, we're happy to do so.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. And also just wanted to add, for more information on RDA, you can also visit their website, regionaldanceamerica.org, and also give them a follow on Instagram at Regional Dance and on Facebook at Regional Dance America. So there's many, many ways that you can reach out to everybody here and learn more. Thank you so much again, Erica, Nancy, Joy, Mary, Tanya, and Kylie. It's been so incredible sharing this space with you all, and your information and insight has been super valuable. And I'm just very honored to have you all as part of this conversation. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone that has joined us today. Have a wonderful day, everybody.